Hi, I'm Grace, and today we're doing another round of crafty Reddit stories. Once again, all of these stories are coming from the Am I the Asshole subreddit. I don't actually know if this was received well or if anyone actually enjoyed watching this because I'm recording this before episode 1 comes out, but I had fun, so I'm doing it again. If you don't already know, the Am I the Asshole subreddit is a place for people to ask if they were in the wrong in a certain situation in their life. So they might not be an asshole as a person, but they might just be the asshole in that scenario. And sometimes they are just horrible, horrible people. So we will find out today what we have. But basically, we are going to be making the judgment. Is this person writing in an asshole? Not the asshole? Everyone sucks. So join me and let me know what you would rate everybody in the comments. This first story is kind of long and very loosely craft related. Yeah, I might have just shoehorned this one in because I thought it was a good story. But it is titled, Am I the Asshole for Ending an Almost 20-Year Friendship Over a Joke and a Crochet Hook? Sounds very dramatic. I, 24-year-old woman, have a friend, 24-year-old male. We've known each other since we were very young. We knew each other tangentially in school, and I was one of the few people who made an effort to be his friend. I do my best to suspend judgment and give people a chance regardless of their idiosyncrasies. We reconnected a couple years after high school, and he seemed to have come out of his shell a bit. We got rather close, but he struggled to respect my boundaries when I didn't want to be intimate with him. We then spent some time apart, about a year. Sounds like a great guy. Let's keep going. We reconnected again and things seemed better this time, until he confessed his feelings for me again. I kindly let him down and he said all the right things about being content to be my friend. I took him at his word. We continued being friends and he began telling me about asking out other girls. I assumed everything was fine and that he had moved on. Then he began going to massage school, of course, and needed someone to practice on. Massage school? Yeah, I'm sure he was going to massage school. But anyway, my first instinct was to haul ass in the opposite direction, but again, he said all the right things. I have a chronic illness and benefit from regular massages, so I accepted as long as we kept it strictly professional and fully clothed. It started off well, he got practice and I got free healthcare in America. But not long after we started our arrangement, things started to go south. I was talking and out of nowhere he looked me dead in the eye and covered my mouth with his hand. I just stared at him in horror. He then removed his hand and explained that I needed to be quiet for what he was doing. I just started giggling hysterically out of nerves and he mentioned he probably shouldn't have done that. I agreed and tried to move on. This guy sounds slightly terrifying. Not long after, while adjusting the sheet covering my fully clothed body, he commented that I had very large breasts. I sat in stunned silence. He apologized and moved on quickly, but it wasn't the last time. In fact, he said that on at least 3 separate occasions. I don't know why I didn't end it there. I don't know why either. There were like 3 steps before this that should have really been the stopping point. Yeah, this guy sounds super invasive, unprofessional, and definitely not respecting your boundaries and not a good friend. This is not your friend. This is a creep trying to get in and not taking no for an answer. But whatever, I mean, clearly you've learned that, so let's keep reading. I should mention that this man does not leave on his own accord. He has to be kicked out. I hate people like that. It's so annoying. Just take a hint when it's late and people are saying, I'm gonna go to bed. That's when you should probably leave. But anyway, on our last session, it was midnight and I was exhausted, so I kicked him out. I walked him to his car and went back inside. The whole session made me very uncomfortable, and he had dropped almost all of the professionalism we once had. I waited several minutes to make sure he was gone before I took out the trash. As I was opening the lid of the trash can and dumping stuff in, I was suddenly blinded by headlights. Then I saw him peel out rather quickly. He must have been sitting in the car just up the street with the car off, no phone screen light, just invisible in the darkness. Needless to say, I was creeped out, and I noped back inside real quick. I thought about asking him about it, but decided it would be better to just have some space. God, this guy is escalating in a really creepy way, and I would have been terrified. I don't know why you weren't more scared. Not long after, he asked to stop by to pick something up from my house. No mention of staying. When he arrived, he asked to stay for a couple of hours. No. I asked him to leave not long after he arrived and laid down in my back porch hammock to relax for the evening. I stopped watching him when he was roughly 4 or 5 meters from the hammock and closed my eyes to rest. Then I heard him clumsily attempt to sneak back, and when I opened my eyes, I saw his shit-eating grin looking down at me. Then he said this: "Wouldn't it be funny if I snuck back and you didn't notice?" Then he pulls out a crochet hook and brandishes it at me, and I stuck this crochet hook up your nose and pulled out your brain. Excuse me? Excuse me. Oh my god, that is terrifying. I would poke his eyes and freaking deck it back in my house so fast. Oh my god. This guy is fucked in the head, okay? This guy has problems. He is a scary person, and no one should be around him. At this point, I don't even remember my reaction. What I do remember is the fact that I could no longer rest in my hammock after he left without the fear that I was going to have a crochet hook jammed up my nose non-consensually. And that was the last straw. Almost 20 years of friendship down the drain. I no longer want to be around this person, and that's deeply sad. He wasn't always like this, but it's escalating. The unfortunate part for me is that I feel incredibly guilty about ending our friendship. I know I'm going to hurt him deeply, and I feel like an asshole for hurting him over his immaturity. Can I be the bigger person? So, what's the verdict, Reddit? Am I the asshole if I ended an almost 20-year friendship over that fucking crochet hook and his stupid joke? No. No, no, no. You are not the asshole. This guy is beyond asshole. He is terrifying. This is not your friend. You had this man in your house touching your body, and that's terrifying. He does not take no for an answer. He doesn't respect your feelings or take you seriously. Why would you feel guilty about ending this friendship? You should kick him in the balls while you do it, and you still wouldn't be the asshole. Far out. Anyway, no, definitely not the asshole. This should have ended long before it got to that. This man is quite scary. There is a small edit at the bottom. Edit, I should clarify that according to him, I'm not the only person he's been practicing on. After the comments, I'm officially scared, and that's probably a good thing. Thank you, I really value the words of warning, given that I'm trying to convince myself to go through with cutting him off. Please. This story was written a year ago, and I pray that this man is no longer in your life. Who knows what this man could do? Like, if you cut him off and he starts just stalking you, he doesn't take no for an answer. Okay, the top comment is, no, not the asshole. This dude sounds Jeffrey Dahmer level crazy. Girl, change your number, change your locks. Hell, if you rent, leave when the lease is up. These are blaring warning signs of obsession to me. It starts with harmless adoration and ends with kidnap and murder. Don't be on an episode of true crime. Avoid this man at all costs. I wish you peace and safety. And look, maybe to some people that sounds dramatic and crazy, but it's not that far off. It's a big world. There are lots of scary people in it. And what this man is doing is terrifying. Even if it doesn't lead to kidnap and murder, it could definitely lead to stalking, which causes PTSD and, is obviously a very stressful experience. So, no, this man should be out of your life so dang fast. And you should make it so clear that he is out of your life. No questions, no maybe we can be friends a year down the line. Absolutely not. You should kick this man out of your life for good. Tell him if I ever see you again, I'll call the police. I don't want you at my home. This is a very scary person. Anyway, so we started off with a bit of a bang. It was a bit full on. The next one is a little less terrifying and more domestic. It is titled, My Postpartum Wife Broke My Handmade Glass Sculpture a Year Ago. Am I the asshole for still holding resentment about it? My wife and I have been married for 3 years, and we had our first baby last year. My wife did go through a lot of hormonal emotions postpartum, and she had a lot of mood swings. A couple of months postpartum, she broke my handmade glass sculpture, which I had spent a couple of months working on as a birthday gift for my sister. My wife called my name many times as she needed help, but I was working on the engravings for the sculpture and I was really concentrated on it. I was gonna go to my wife in just a few minutes, but my wife got very frustrated and she just barged into my room and threw the sculpture on the ground and it broke. I was shocked and my wife immediately apologized a lot, but I didn't want her to stress out too much, so I told her it was alright and that I should have responded when she called my name. The next week, we went to the doctor and my wife got prescribed meds for PPD. My wife's mood instantly shifted a lot after she started taking those meds. My wife did apologize constantly and felt very guilty about breaking the glass sculpture, and she even cried a few times, but I told her it was alright and to let it go. It's been about a year now, and while we are back to normal, I still hold a lot of resentment. I feel like a part of my love for my wife was gone when she broke that sculpture, and I could not imagine anyone, let alone my wife, doing such a terrible thing. Am I the asshole? Oh god, that one is really tricky. A lot of women go through, postpartum depression and a lot of emotions after pregnancy, of course. It's a huge strain on your body and it can take a real mental toll, especially if the birth was traumatic in any way. So that is so understandable. But, obviously you can have all this going on and still do the wrong thing and apologize for it, which she clearly has. So really, she's kind of done everything she could. She can't fix the sculpture for you, I imagine. She's not a glass person. She's not a glass maker, a glassware, whatever. I assume she doesn't work with glass. But it is kind of a hard thing to come back from. I understand, as a very creative and crafty person, the things you make can become very important and special and almost like a piece of you, especially if you're making it as a gift for someone else. It's almost more important and more special. So I understand that must have been so crushing to have worked on, I imagine, this beautiful sculpture and just have it broken. But you really should respond to your pregnant wife when she speaks to you. Like, come on. I know sometimes you're in the depths of concentration, but if it goes longer than, I don't know, 30 seconds without you responding, saying in a minute or something like that, then that's really not cool. Maybe you're like a little bit of the asshole because you did accept the apology. I know you did it so that she didn't stress and cause more issues for herself, which is fair enough if you're worried about her mental health. But you accepted the apology and you even told her to let it go. So if you're telling someone else to let it go and you accept their apology, you should really find out how to let it go within yourself. Otherwise, don't say that. If you had to go to therapy or chat to a friend about it or your parent or a family member, if you are not okay with it, don't say that you are okay with it. I just think if you tell someone to let it go and you accept their apology, you really have to find the ability within yourself to let it go as well. All right, let's get into the comments. This top comment says, "Talk it out now. Resentment rots a relationship." And yeah, I totally agree that you should probably talk about it with your wife. If you're still holding on to it, maybe have a conversation. But I definitely think it would be worth talking it out to a neutral third party, if you will, as well, just so that you can vent about it and figure out a way to move on. The next comment, they're quoting, "My wife called my name many times as she needed help." And then they say, "Something tells me this is not the first time this happened, lol." It does sound like she was at some sort of breaking point, but it definitely could have been exasperated by her postpartum depression. So who knows if this was a reasonable crash out after this occurring so many times, or if it was just blown out of proportion. It's hard to really say, but definitely a shitty thing for you to do to your wife who just gave birth to your child. The next comment down says, "To be honest, I would hold a lot of resentment for a partner who refused to help me when I needed help postpartum. I absolutely don't condone breaking things, but I do know that rage is a part of depression, and not having enough support definitely contributes to worsening PPD. Info, was this the only time she had to ask multiple times for help?" I don't think OP responded to this one. Yeah, it's pretty mixed. There's quite a few people saying not the asshole, but then definitely a lot of people calling him an asshole for ignoring her when she just gave birth and was struggling with depression, which I really agree with. You know, the more I'm sort of mulling it over and reading the comments, I do think he was almost just as much in the wrong as her. Like, obviously, she shouldn't have gone, physically aggressive and broken the thing he was working on, but it's really, I just think it's really not cool to ignore your partner. I do understand there are definitely times where you're focused on something and you just want to finish whatever you're doing before you respond, but again, I feel like if you wait longer than 30 seconds, you're just being really rude and disrespectful. There is an update we can read. Update. I read some of the comments and got some good suggestions. I realized I had to be honest and upfront with my wife. My wife and I just had a really long talk where I finally told her about everything I was bottling up over the past year. I told my wife I didn't blame her since she had PPD, but it was just hard not to feel resentful. I told her I understood why she was frustrated at that moment and that I should have immediately responded when she called me. But I told her I would have preferred if she had shouted at me or even slapped me or something rather than breaking that sculpture. That was just heartless and cruel. My wife seemed very remorseful and apologized a lot and cried. She asked if there was anything she could do to undo what she had done last year, and if there was any way I could not have that resentment since it really hurt her a lot. I had thought about this for the past couple of hours and I realized there was only one way where I could completely let go of the resentment, and I told my wife that. I told my wife I'll be sewing a handmade memory quilt for my sister's birthday next year. This would take almost a year, and I told my wife once I do finish and give my sister the gift, that's when all my resentment would probably go away. Okay. My wife seemed grateful and asked if she could help. I told her not for this gift, but maybe in the future. The truth is, I don't really feel super comfortable trusting my wife with this, given how she destroyed my previous gift. It's psychological, and I'll most likely regain the trust once I finish sewing the quilt. I haven't told my wife about the trust issue, as I think this is just a me issue and not my wife's issue. What does a quilt have to do with your relationship? You know? What does a quilt have to do with your resentment over a past action? I don't really understand how finishing a quilt is going to magically make these feelings go away for you. This is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry. Like, crafting is definitely a way to, you know, sort of think over your feelings and focus on something else. And, you can reflect inwards while you're making something. I find it is nice to have sort of an outlet which allows you to sort of turn inwards, but it it's not. This is a serious problem, and a quilt is not going to fix it. That is ridiculous. You need to speak to a therapist. Let's be real. You need to go to couples counseling and say, I'm mad at my wife for breaking a sculpture, and I told her it was fine, but it's really not, and I don't know how to get over my feelings. You need to just talk to someone about it and find a method to sort of get over yourself a little bit, because it happened a year ago to start, and now you're saying, you know, we have to wait one more year until I'll stop resenting you. Like, what? You can just magically turn it off? Because if you can, then you should magically just turn it off right now. Because this is ridiculous. Why are you going to hold this over your wife? If you are able to just pick a date and say, I won't be resentful, then you are just holding this over your wife to make her feel guilty for something she already feels bad about and has already tried to make up for, and you told her it was fine. You sound like a really annoying person. Like, you ignore your wife, she gets upset and overreacts and has this outburst, which is not great, but understandable given her situation. And then you pretend everything is fine and just hold it inwards. That is the most childish and silly thing I've ever heard. I'm sorry, but look, you can't help how you feel, but there's no point in making her feel worse about it and not giving her any possible solution or like letting her even help you with the quilt. That is so kind. That just shows how much she wants her husband to love her. She wants to help him with the quilt so that he won't resent her. Like, that is so sad. I don't know why you're dragging this out for your wife. Top comment seems to agree with me. You sound toxic AF. I am not saying it was okay that your wife broke the sculpture, but you've already made it clear that one, she was suffering from PPD, which is a very serious medical condition which affects judgment and impulse control. And two, you were ignoring your newly postpartum wife while she called for your help because you were prioritizing an object over her when she was at one of the most vulnerable stages of her life. Your wife had apologized profusely for what she did, and you didn't seem to have done any kind of proper soul searching about the horrible way you treated her at that time. And now, after secretly harboring resentment for her for over a year, you've told her you still don't trust her and will continue to hold her mistake over her head for another full year while you undertake some gigantic symbolic purging of your negative emotions towards her. So your wife gets 2 years of punishment for an action she performed while seriously ill and which she apologized for. Meanwhile, you get off scot-free for your neglect and emotional manipulation. I hope your poor wife uses this year to recognize that she deserves better than an emotionally abusive spouse who holds 2-year-long grudges and can't face up to his own failures. That was brutal. And I 100% agree with that. I mean, I'm sorry, but that is so true, man. Like, why are you purposefully choosing to A, hide the fact that you're not over this issue, and B, hold it over her head for another full year after harboring it for a previous year? It's ridiculous. I could see this guy's side at the start, you pour your heart and soul into the things you make, for sure, 100%. And if someone breaks it on purpose, it is cruel and heartbreaking. But when you factor in her condition and his actions prior to that, I imagine he hasn't been a very good partner by the sounds of it. Like, you need a co-parent. You need to step up for your wife and parent your child and help her. Yeah, your wife deserves a bit better treatment than that. Alright, let's move on. The next one I have is, am I the asshole for cutting off my cousin and being upset with my family over a sweater I knitted for them? My extended family and I have a tradition of coming together in Thanksgiving week and exchanging gifts with each other, as we usually don't see each other during Christmas and New Year's. This year I've been getting into some knitting, and so I knit everybody in the family a sweater. That is dedication. I don't know how big your family is, but that would take me so long. Even if I just crocheted it, that would still take me a long time. Anyway, I thought it turned out pretty good. Also, some more background is that we meet one day, give our gifts, and we all take a break another day. And then the next day is board game night. Cool. Come to the day we meet, I hand it out to everybody and they all thank me. I note, however, that my cousin was glaring at the sweater and later carelessly stuffed the sweater into his backpack, which was already full, and I wouldn't be surprised if some of the stitches came off. I would have let this go, but what comes after really pissed me off. The second day, the day of the board games, I walk into our relative's house and see his dog wearing the sweater. How does a dog wear a human sweater? But anyway, I immediately went up to him and confronted him about it, and he just said that it looked too perfect for the dog. Also, this cousin is very stubborn, so I knew I couldn't do anything. So later, I talked to the family about it, and they side with him. They say that I should be happy that the sweater is still being appreciated. So now I don't know. Am I the asshole? I originally thought he was wrong, now I'm not sure. Any advice would help. Thanks. This is a weird one. I don't think you're an asshole for making everyone a sweater for Christmas. You know, it was, the gift that you thought everyone would like and appreciate, and you wanted to do that, so that's great. I do, however, think that once you give someone a gift, it's out of your hands, literally and figuratively. You can't really control what they do with their gift. And it is really sad when you make something for someone and they don't appreciate it. It's really upsetting. And especially if they're like really obviously not appreciative, then that's really upsetting and quite rude of them for sure. But putting it on the dog is not the worst thing he could have done with it, I guess. At least he didn't like throw it in the bin. I mean, maybe he could have like donated it, but then still, he's getting rid of your hard work, and that's heartbreaking. So I think he would have been upset no matter what he did, unless it was just wearing it, which clearly he doesn't want to do. I don't know, maybe he's allergic to wool. Maybe he just doesn't like the look of knitwear. I don't know, but clearly a knit sweater is not appreciated by this cousin, and if you don't want to ever make him a gift or give him a gift ever again, that is absolutely your prerogative. But I think this one is just you just kind of got to call it a loss. I think it's a bit shitty that your family totally sided with him. Maybe some of them also didn't really like the present very much, but I would say you're not the asshole, and he is a little bit of an asshole just for like being pretty callous towards you regarding the sweater and being a bit rude about it. But yeah, like I said, there's nothing you can really do about it, and you can't really control what he does with his present. Let's get into the comments. I need a second opinion here. Top comment, not the asshole, but you're learning an important lesson. Very few people are worth knitting gifts for, and even fewer are going to understand the work and money that you put into making them. Your cousin and the people who sided with him are no longer knit-worthy people. Invest your energy into making things that bring you joy and find other cheaper gifts for them. Next year, I'd suggest a doggy toy for your cousin. 100% agree with that. It's really unfortunate, but not everyone wants or appreciates handmade gifts. Some people feel like it is cheaper and less effort than buying something, which is really not true in most cases. But yeah, I would definitely The way I go about giving handmade gifts is I ask people how they would feel. If you want it to be a surprise, you don't have to tell them what you're making. But I definitely have gone up to family and friends and said, how would you feel if I did a handmade present? And if they say, oh, yeah, that's great. Thank you so much. I'd love that. Then that's cool. But if they hesitate and say, oh, yeah, sure. Or like, if they don't seem super excited about it, or they outright say that they don't really want anything handmade, then I wouldn't really bother putting in the effort and hurting my wrists for the sake of that person. So, yeah, I think I totally agree with this comment where you did nothing wrong and he was a bit of a dick, but you're learning a very important lesson about crafting. I think that one's pretty straightforward. I think we can move on to the next story. Next one is very craft related. If you don't crochet or knit, maybe sewing either, maybe sewing as well, you probably won't understand what this means. But am I the asshole for not finishing a crochet pattern test on time? So, for anyone who doesn't know, when a designer creates a new pattern, especially if it is clothing, they will ask just a bunch of knitters, crocheters to test the pattern before they start selling it. So they'll give the people the pattern and ask them to make up their own version in their own size and give feedback. It's basically like an editing process to make sure there's no typos, spelling errors, math errors, and also to make sure that people can knit up their size correctly using the suggested gauge. So yeah, with that context, let's move on. Pippin's joining us for this one. She's sitting at my feet. From the title, you'd probably immediately say yes, but please hear me out. I needed more opinions on this matter. I was chosen for a pattern test on a Saturday, and they sent everyone the patterns on Saturday evening and said we had 5 days to finish it. I didn't see that I was chosen for the test until Sunday afternoon. Normally, with pattern tests on Instagram, they either DM you or make a post about it, etc. I didn't see a DM, and I definitely don't recall seeing a story post with all the chosen testers. It was just a group chat that popped up on my inbox saying I got chosen. Since I saw it on Sunday, not Saturday, I thought the deadline was Friday. So on Thursday, they sent a text to the group chat as a reminder, but I did not see it and they didn't message me privately or make sure I'd seen it or anything. Fast forward to Friday, I see I'm removed from the group chat and I was unfollowed. I messaged them apologizing for the mix-up on my end, but all in all, they were just rude about the whole situation. I had the photos and the item was done. I just hadn't sent it in the group chat. So am I the asshole? And then they have a quick edit to answer a couple of questions. So let's have a look at that first. There was not a release date for the pattern yet, and they weren't going to release it the day the test is finished. It won't be released for a few more days. Oh, okay, look. A lot of people on Instagram ask people to test their patterns for free, and the only compensation you get is the pattern itself. So I do understand a lot of people can't afford to pay 10 people to test their pattern. So if you're happy with that arrangement, then that's fine. But I don't think you're totally obligated to finish it. Life happens, and sometimes you can't always finish a pattern test on time. But this doesn't really feel like life got ahead of you or anything. It feels like you just kind of weren't very organized or responsive. Every time I've been chosen to test a pattern, I was just added to a group chat, and usually there is a story post where they tag you, but a story disappears after 24 hours. So if you're not checking your phone on that day, then you're not going to see the post. But yeah, I've only ever been added to group chats. I've never been messaged directly about being chosen to be a pattern tester. So I think it's kind of weird that you just, did you just not check your phone for the entire day of Saturday and Sunday until the afternoon? or you saw the group chat and just ignored it, because then it's kind of on you. You probably should have just been a bit more organized and like check, like check your messages. If you know you've applied to test a pattern and you don't want to get kicked out, maybe just check your messages, read that group chat you've randomly been added to and find out what it is. And then you realize, oh, 5 days. And also, texts have a sent date. When you click on Instagram DMs, it'll say sent yesterday. So I don't know why you didn't check that. So it just kind of seems you were a little pretty disorganized. And also, I also give progress updates while I'm testing or ask questions. So, like, you made this item, you didn't have any questions along the way, or you didn't say, hey, I've started, or hey, I'm about halfway through. Like, I like to give progress updates while I'm working on the item. But yeah, I don't know. I don't think you're really an asshole, but I think that you could have organized yourself better, and I don't think that they are an asshole for removing you from the group chat. If they got angry at you and like berated you for not finishing the pattern test, then yes, that's horrible, because you're not obligated to do anything for anyone. Like, you haven't been paid for this pattern testing, I imagine. So yeah, I I don't think anyone's really an asshole here. You were disorganized, so you got kicked out, and that's kind of that. Maybe that, just take that on board as like a lesson for next time. If you apply for a pattern, note the date that they're going to choose testers, and then on that date, check their story and check your DMs, dude. There seems to be only one comment on this post. Info: did the group chat have progress updates from other testers? Did you comment how close you are to being finished? I think it's pretty typical for any tester to have a deadline, but it's weird that they didn't mention it a day or so before the day it needing to be turned in, and DM you before completely blocking you. I wouldn't take it too seriously. Didn't she say, yeah, on Thursday they sent a text in the group chat as a reminder, but I did not see it? Like, why weren't you checking this group chat? Clearly that is the only way they are contacting you regarding this pattern test. So why aren't you checking this group chat if you care about testing this pattern? I don't know. I think that's a bit whack. I'm gonna just say no assholes here, but you should really organize yourself better. I think we can move on from that one. There's not really much else to say, and there's no other comments or updates. So let's do one more story. It is titled, Am I the asshole for being happy that someone's small business is flopping? Okay, hear me out. I'm leaving out some details for the sake of privacy. I don't know if they'll see this, and this might be a little hard to comprehend. I'm in a time crunch, but I need to know. I have been doing this craft since middle school, if not sooner. I am now in my early 20s. I put it down for a while, but picked it back up when I started having some health issues that really affect my day-to-day and eventually caused me to leave the workforce. My fiancé has been doing everything they can do to support me in this time, and it's just not quite enough, but I physically can't handle a regular job. So I decided to turn what used to be my coping skill into work. I came up with a plan, set some goals, and started to execute said plan. Well, all of a sudden, this person, someone rather close to me and my fiancé, wants to do the same thing with this craft as well. I mean, really out of the blue. I'm taking it slow, started with a borrowed table and tent for markets, building a social media presence built on authenticity, and reinvesting every cent that I made, aside from a single Red Bull before every event as a motivator, back into my business. They immediately create socials, a website, having to pay monthly fees, bought a bunch of stuff for their setup to look good, spent money from their partner's income, and has only paid one of 8 booth fees as we have been working together. They've done me dirty, talking over me at said events, outing me as a trans man at said events, and so on and so forth. But their color scheme and vibe is quite literally the exact opposite of mine, but we have both been trying to make it work. The last couple of fairs, I've done them alone, but brought their things out of kindness because they were dealing with a lot, but this might make the third week in a row. When they don't make what they wanted, they're complaining about it for days. If they make more than I do, that's all they can talk about for days. When starting out, they would talk down to me, they would explain business things to me like I know nothing. I'm not claiming to know everything. I'm always open to learning more so I can do better, but I'm talking child level, beginning level, when I've been preparing for this for over a year. We are, as of today, 7 events into this mess. I've already cut off another close person from a similar journey because of the drama. We haven't gone to today's event yet, but so far I've made $300 to $400 and they haven't even made $50. Every event, I have made it a point to make my display a little better, investing in it small amounts at a time, paying for another fair, more supplies for my craft, or display options while they've had the same setup from day one. I spend the time doing research, keeping track of profits, losses, and my expenses, working all day, every day, maybe a day off here or there when I'm in a really bad flare. But I choose this craft because it's something I did and can do during my hard days. Something I know that I can stay consistent on. I booked 3 fairs, estimated at least 1K people in attendance each event. So they booked 3 fairs for 3 Saturdays in a row. Each Saturday, it's estimated that 1,000 people will attend. The last event I made over $200 after upgrading the way my display looks. They made less than $10. I'm confident in my craft, in my display, and the way I connect with my customers. I'm here to make a connection with my people, to spread positivity, and to simply just make people smile. I want people to feel good when walking away from my booth, whether they spent money or not. While they seem to be focused on simply making sales, I want them to do good. I didn't want this to become a competition, but with the way I've been spoken to, the way they treated me with customers around, I don't feel bad that they're not meeting their goals. I'm not obsessing over doing better than them. I am, however, obsessed with doing better, even a small amount better than I did last time. However, after talking with some people around me, every time that I bring up my win, they bring up that person's loss, or at least, how did that person do? And that's the rest of the conversation. Maybe I'm surrounded by the wrong people. Maybe I should accept my win, celebrate it on my socials, and keep moving. I feel vindicated by their loss. They've been acting like they're better than me and like they know everything. I am happy that their business is flopping. Am I the asshole? This is kind of funny. I mean, you literally said that you don't want them to do bad, but you're happy they're failing, so that kind of contradicts itself. But I don't think you're an asshole. It's not like you've gone to them and said, haha, you're flopping, I'm the best, you know? In fact, they've kind of done that to you in a way. So, yeah, I think this person definitely sucks. They don't respect you. If they're happy to tell everyone, you know, that you are a trans man and you're not comfortable with that, and they're just disrespecting you all around and treating you badly, then they're not really a friend. And I don't know why you went into business with this person. You shouldn't have been bringing their stuff with you to markets. You should have just done your own thing and let this person do their own thing. And then if you both do well, that's great. Or if they do better than you, whatever. I just think you should probably just not talk to this person anymore. I think you shouldn't have gone into business with them in the first place. But what's done is done. And yeah, you're not an asshole for silently appreciating that you're doing better than them. I think that's perfectly fine, to be honest. It's satisfying to do well, and when someone mistreats you, it's satisfying to know that you're in a better place than they are. So, as long as you're not harboring it and obsessing over it every day, which sounds like you're not, you know, then I think that's fine. It is unhealthy when it bleeds into your everyday life and you're like constantly thinking, how can I do better than this person? And you're constantly asking, how much have you made, and comparing it to what you've done. I think that gets a little intense and silly. But so far, I would say not the asshole. Let's read into some comments. The top comment is just paragraphs. Oh, I guess they didn't put it in paragraphs when they originally posted. I don't know, who cares? Next comment down. Stop sharing a space with this person. Let them do their own thing for your own mental health. And then OP responds, "That's what I've been thinking about, but I'm also very aware that the customers also see this, and in a weird way, it's giving me more sales. She's got one more chance today, but going forward, I will likely be telling her that I would just prefer to do it alone." Why are you giving this person one more chance? Just tell them you want to do your own thing. Just tell them we have different styles. I want to work on my own. Bye. Yeah, I really don't know why you're helping this person. And I don't know why you don't mind helping this person. Clearly you do, because they're not being nice to you. So, like, maybe if you really want to do this last event, fine, do it. But definitely going forward, no more. No more helping here and there. No more bringing their stuff with you to markets. Nothing. They don't even pay for the shared event fees. That's pretty ridiculous in my opinion. But anyway, I'm gonna call it a day there. Let me know what you think in the comments, and let me know if I was wrong or if you agree. I hope you enjoyed these crafty Reddit stories, and I will see you on Saturday. Bye!